Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be, and whether you're watching live or archived. And welcome to a Nautel webinar. I almost said Transmission Talk Tuesday. It is April 1st. I probably could have got away with it. But I'm your host, Jeff Welton. We're going to talk about AUI and updates and all things cool like that. And I'm going to rely on a whole bunch of other people to give you the input. A few things to remember. Well, first, let's talk about who we do have here. You can read, so I'm not going to read the screen to you, but we've got Justin Jamieson, our senior engineering technologist, and Justin is coming to us from one of the tech schools in the area as he's conducting interviews today. So Justin may be a little sketchy on the connection, but he's looking pretty good. Thanks, Justin, for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff.
And next up, we've got Cameron Kelly, our software development lead. And Cameron is at the home office today?
I'm at home today, yes, thanks.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, we've got John Whyte, our head of marketing and product strategy, senior management team member. He's the guy that basically makes me look like I know what I'm talking about on occasion. And John, welcome.
Thank you, and that goes both ways, Jeff.
And as you can see, we're going to start already. I do see a couple of things, and for those who are not familiar with Nautel webinars, although looking down the list of names, I think most of you are, we do encourage these to be as interactive as possible. You've got the ability to ask questions, so type them in there. I see John Antonuck saying good morning from Snowbank, or from Snowbanks, yeah, snowy Fairbanks. Mark Boris out west. Mark's saying good morning. Got a question from Dave Turnbull already, and Elaine's going to miss NAB, and we're going to miss Elaine. So that's what's in the questions already, but absolutely put your stuff in there, and we will run with it. If you are an SBE member, a Nautel webinar does qualify for half of a recertification credit under Schedule I. Don't forget to jot that down under whatever it is that you keep track of, Notepad, Excel spreadsheet, or you do like I do and just panic at the last minute when you're recertifying and try to remember everything you've done. So that's about it. We'll get rolling. And for this one, I am mostly going to we're going to try something. I'm going to try giving John the keyboard and mouse control so he can run the slide deck. If it doesn't work, he's just going to tell me it didn't work, and we'll carry on from there. So let's see where we go with this. All right, John, you should have the helm.
Sure, and just to give folks a sense of what we're going to cover today, we're going to take a little view of a little history of the AUI and what made it great and what makes it great today. We're also going to throw in a demo just so you can see the latest version of the AUI. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the road forward as we move from the Flash AUI forward to the new AUI. And then to close out, we're going to take a look at some new features. Justin will help us with that, that we've added to the VX, and that will be migrated through other transmitter families as we go. So with that, I'm going to kick off with where this advanced user interface, what made it advanced and where did it come from? And I'll try clicking it and see if that works there. There we go. So I was fortunate to be with the company when we started this whole adventure. We were in the midst of designing our NV series, and we had ideas that we could put this big screen on the front of it, because at the time, if you look back, this was pretty typical of what was available in the days. Is everything was focused on exciters. And if there was any user interface smarts at all, it was mostly in the exciter, probably pretty basic, and little or no access when you were away from the site. And we quickly started thinking, well, what if we put a big giant screen on the front of the transmitter, which we did. We could put a whole lot of information on there. We could even put instruments on. And I remember a discussion by one of our designers who said, well, yeah, that's nice, but what would we show remotely? And our answer was everything. Everything you see on the site, we're going to bring home to wherever you are. If you're in your living room, in your car, we want to bring all that home. And that's really was the vision behind originally coming up with the original AUI. And I dug out a slide that goes back to 2010. And I think a lot of this is still what is made the user interface so engaging with so many of our customers. And it really, instead of being a exciter-centric view, we try to make it holistic transmitter view so you can see everything going on. And that took us into hundreds of parameters, from temperatures and fan speeds, everything going on in every module in a transmitter with a central view. At that time, I think it took us about 10 person years of effort to do that. And even though we started out with our big power NX and NB systems, we took it right down into our into low power systems, and nothing like that had ever been done before. And so a lot of these things are still, you know, what makes the AUI attractive today. And if I click forward here, you know, there's been a lot of imitation, and recently we did an exercise. A staff member just took a look across all the different competitive user interfaces out there, and without going into detail, we still feel like we are providing the most breadth and depth of anything that's out there, with some very unique functionality, MER. You know, some people have some presets. We have 64. They'll never run out. And maybe with that, Jeff, I'm going to ask you. You live with customers a lot more than I do, and you're in front of the transmitters a lot more than I do. What are you hearing from customers that makes the AUI stand out for them?
Well, and the funny thing was that it going back, so around about 2005 or 6, I forget which year exactly, we grabbed a bunch of customers, contract engineers, consultants, and stuck them all in a conference room at NAB and said, what would you like to see in a transmitter? And one in specific said something that really stuck with me, and I see some of his folks on here, but Chris Alexander from Crawford Broadcasting said, it's got to have bling, but it better be useful bling. And so that was kind of the whole mindset behind it. I mean, there were some folks doing, like you've shown MER there were some folks doing spectrum analyzers or network analyzers, and they all had some limitations. You know, I mean, you either had to go off air and run a test tone, or you had to, there were just some limits. So that was kind of harnessing the power of the number of readings we had available. And at the time, that's where we kind of, I won't say we shot ourselves in the foot, but at that time, HTML5 didn't exist, and there was nothing that would render these graphics like Flash did. So that's how we got there. And Sean in the questions mentions he likes how he can tell if his backup audio is present or not. You know, again, the level of monitoring that we can do is just huge. I mean, for the station that I help out at, we've used 2 presets in the past, and if it trips to the backup preset, it lets me know I'm on backup audio. I can put a different message on the screen in my truck to tell me, hey, you know, you're on backup audio. I've got other customers that do something similar with generator status, so it flicks that way. So anyway, yeah, that's the kind of thing. There's a pile of stuff that it does, and like I said, even now there's a pile of stuff it doesn't do. And Sean makes a good point in here, and I know we're going to talk to it in a couple of minutes, but he does not like how often his network card goes numb, where the AUI kind of locks up. So that's one of the things I know we'll be addressing with Cameron in a little bit.
All right. And one of the things we talked about is, do we want to jump to a demo really quickly?
I'm good with it. Justin, how you do it?
I am ready. If I can be made presenter, I think I should be able to accommodate that.
Take control back. We'll make Justin the driver, and here we go. And at that point, you should be able to run the thing.
And let me stand by. Are we seeing an AUI?
It's live AUI.
Excellent. Okay, so I've got 2 AUIs to share with you all today. Starting out, we've got a GV20 that we've got in our engineering lab that is actually mimicking a transmitter that's already on its way to Las Vegas for NAB this coming weekend. So we've been doing a lot of development lately on AirChain, which has had a variety of implications to our AUI. But just to start out here, one of my favorite parts is just this dashboard that you can configure and set up to have a number of different widgets and different monitors here that kind of give you an instantaneous view of your transmitter. So just kind of from left to right, we've got our spectrum view. That's showing our FM plus HD carrier right now. We're modulating here from and through our AirChain. Then we've got kind of a little modulation meter telling us whether we're on our main or our backup exciter right now. Power distribution curve, and then a customizable meters panel that right now I've kind of configured for just a smattering of different meters across the kind of cross section of the transmitter. And then also our signal constellation here, showing our data for our HD carriers. So, you know, in general, one of the best things that I find to be most handy when I'm working on the transmitters in our labs or kind of on the show floor is the ability to, again, dial up presets and be able to switch through them super quickly. I'm a fan of that for demos like this, where I can set up specific audio sources across different presets and switch them. And I've seen customers make round robin preset chains where they'll go through 4 or 5 inputs, one for each preset, and the modulation loss will fail over from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. So, you know, you take something like a VX transmitter where we've got 2 composite inputs, 2 AES inputs, analog left, right, and now our audio player. And you can actually build out that preset functionality to cycle through all of those different inputs across our presets. And like Jeff said, you can configure your RDS to tell you exactly what input you're on if you really want that feedback to let you know when something's gone wrong. So this is our, oh, go ahead, John.
Nope, that's me. And I'm going to say, I'm going to interrupt
Jeff.
real quick because the RDS is uniquely set per preset. You've got the ability to put static messages in that change with presets. A couple of comments in the questions. Marco mentions that with the Davicom remote control and the AUI, he gets a pile of information and control from the transmitter site. And there are a couple of VS related ones that I'll talk to in a moment. But absolutely, carry on, Justin.
Yeah, so I would be remiss to mention that, you know, sitting on our Linux operating system, same as our AUI, is our SNMP kind of control interface. So almost everything that you see here, meters, alarms, is all available over that SNMP interface. So we definitely encourage customers to exercise that. That's something that's very powerful for building into that kind of site control. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of show you, you can set static internal RDS and configure all the parameters here per preset, and you can configure dynamic RDS through a variety of sources as well here. Another nice feature when it comes to presets is our scheduler. I don't have any rules in here for me right now, but you can actually have it switch presets based on time and date and rules that you'll set up in this screen. So that's a nice, really kind of feature that we've had for quite a while that is allowed customers to just have that flexibility. And I think it's pretty accurate to say that what we see in the radio field is that every station is just a little bit different. Every need for every customer is just a little bit different. And our role as designers is to accommodate those wide ranges of needs through flexibility in our design. So, there's a whole bunch of screens here that I don't anticipate I'll have necessarily time to show everything today. Another huge feature that I enjoy when you're managing a transmitter through multiple different stakeholders is our user configuration. So you can actually set up different users with different permission levels. So you may want a low-level tech to be able to check the transmitter, but to not have some control over something like the RF state or changing presets. So you can create a viewer user with only specific permissions for that. You can create as many users as you need to accommodate your entire kind of crew that you might be working on the transmitter at various times.
So quick question, and I'm going to kind of cut you off a little because there's a pile of stuff to cover and
That's
limited
okay.
amount of time. But one of the things that mentioned in the questions, let's see, Jeff mentioned would be nice to have RDS content displayable on the dashboard, a sort of a quick confirmation that your data path from your studio is working. And I know, talking to the support guys, that is one of the biggest challenges. And on the VS, one of our updates on the VS allowed you to see RDS data on the front panel of the transmitter. Is there anything, and I know you're going to talk to future plans near the tail end of this, but is that on the wish list?
So that's definitely on the wish list. That's a feedback that we've heard from customers for quite a bit now. I will say that the way that we handle RDS in VX series is would maybe make itself a little bit more viable in that platform. In previous series, the way we handle RDS is, if it's coming in through IP sources, it just gets passed to the exciter, and the AUI really doesn't have much knowledge as to what that data actually is, really at all. VX, we've actually got some of that processing done on the Linux core. So it's possible that it might be a little bit easier to accomplish that, but 100% on the wish list. Definitely in terms of adding features that allow you to monitor data sources and audio sources into the transmitter, that's stuff that we keep listening for and that we're trying to work into our roadmap.
And let's see, quick, so Jay's asking on the preset scheduler, do you have a preset scheduler in this? You do, right?
Yep.
And you can change that pretty much to the second, right? Not just, he's asking, can you do it on a per hour, but
Oh,
you
yes.
can configure right down to fractions of a second, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, if I wanted to turn my my HD off, go to just my purely FM preset for some reason or another, I can set exactly what time period I want, what calendar days of the week, and then a specific time. Now I'm not sure if we can go down to a fraction of a second, but we definitely have minute accuracy there.
Okay.
So like say if I wanted to go 14:32 and then dial up 15:56. So you can see there that now it's blocked out that piece kind of on my time. And then say we're going to run it from February 1st till, let's say, July 4th. And repeat every 24 hours.
Cool. One other real quick one. I know we do email alerts, actually two of them. Sean's asking if you can do an email when conditions are cleared as opposed to when an alarm happens.
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Maybe add that to the wish list. And then Rari's asking about TLS 1.3 encryption on SMPT email alerting.
Yeah, so I believe, I'm not 100% sure if this has made its way to GV released yet, but I believe as of the latest release for VX, we should be working with TLS. We have, after kind of switching over to our new AUI, encountered a couple of issues with our email notification system. So, we just have to work through kind of supporting the different security protocols, having no security, having authentication, not having authentication, and we've definitely uncovered a few bugs there as we've been releasing. So we've continued to work against, we've continued to work on fixing and improving all of that. I'm pretty sure in the next VX software release and the next GV software release, there'll be further improvements on those. So stay tuned to our release notes to really see what we're kind of working on there. But yes, we should be supporting TLS, if not now, on the next release for these products.
Okay. And there's a pile of stuff coming in that I'm trying to keep up with, a lot of them. So folks, if you've asked questions previous to me answering other ones, understand that I'll get to them as we get there in the sequence. But at that note, John, I think we're going to hand it back over to you and we will carry on. Does that make sense?
That sounds great.
And thanks, Justin. I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
And don't go away unless you absolutely. By the way, folks, Justin does have an interview at the top of the hour. So if we do go long, he will disappear, but we'll try to suck all the information we can out of him before then.
Well, and I'll put a plug in for Justin as well, too, while you're transitioning screens. For anybody that's going to NEB, we will have late in the afternoon on the Sunday, we'll have an AUI focus session, and Justin will be there to lead that time.
All right. And John, you should have control of the slide deck again. And
I do. And I see there's lots of questions coming in about releases and release availability. And so that's what we're going to jump into right now. So, as many of you may have known that this has not been an easy process for us. And certainly you're probably wondering why. We're probably about 40 person, actually we're over 40 person years of effort into this. I guess we built something that was so complete and the breadth and depth that we talked about, it's been a high bar for us to move forward. Now, the good news is you're actually seeing code. We actually have the AUI moved over. The challenge we have now is to move it on to our next platforms. Let's see how we're doing.
Oh, and by the way, while you're getting there, and this is a perfectly good celebratory looking slide for that, I want to give a birthday shout out to Alex Hartman. Alex was the beta user for the very first GV transmitter, a GV10, and its 11th birthday is today. And that transmitter has been tested with both temperature extremes and just about every torture test you could put onto it. He was drilling holes into it about 3 hours after he uncrated it. So there you go.
Yeah. So these slides were used last year when I stood up in front of our radio technology forum, the NUG. And at that time, we were facing this any day now kind of sensation. We had been working away on this for quite a while. And I guess the good news is that we actually did get some releases out. We did get I'll talk about it in a moment, but we did have a little pause on our getting the GV release out. We had one rack that had one transmitter that had racks that didn't update cleanly. And the last thing we want to do is put something in your hands that is not going to have a clean install. So it took us a while, and we created a utility that helps make sure that's never going to happen. So the good news is the VX series is well over 1,000 of those are shipped already. GV2 series has been shipping since July of last year. So those are going out the door. These are all carrying the new AUI code. The GV series, actually all GV series now, as of today, the final testing was done for the pre-2021 testing. So that software is available. And the more recent GVs, that's been shipping for about 2 weeks now. So we've had some good successes, but I know a lot of you are asking about what about the VS, the NV Lite, and other platforms. So I'll get to that in just a moment. Just take a second first, though, to talk about the GV upgrade. The code, the functionality is big enough now that we only will support it on an SSD. That's the only host that makes sense. A CF card is just not the right place for it anymore. I mentioned about this utility that makes sure that the install is going to go clean. The process of installing for GV is you run the utility first, and then you give us a call once you've run it, and give us the serial number of your system, and we figure out the right kit to send you. And we do have a promotion. It's an SSD. We're not trying to make money on this. It's just we are pre-programming this. And the reason why is, and I think some people were asking about, can you do a backwards install back to Flash? And there's no easy path for that. So we want to make sure that if you are upgrading, you have an SSD in hand with the new load, because if anything by chance and a small chance did go wrong, we want you to have your Flash, whatever you've had in the past, ready to go back in the transmitter so you don't lose any time off the air. So that's why we're doing. And just notice, read the release notes carefully. The site control is set for a future release, and there's no EQ instrumentation or oscilloscope in this version. Right. So that's the GV.
We'll throw because you and I had this discussion. We're not forcing people to buy the hard drive from us. You can go out and get an OEM hard drive and download the software and unpack it yourself. The risk factor is high enough. Is it worth $150? Well, that's your call, not mine. But yeah, the option is there. Chris had asked, and this is just going to jump back to Justin real quick about, is there a limit on number of events in the scheduler? Because on the AM with the existing scheduler on the NX series, they're running out of possible events. So just jot a note for that if you don't know the answer.
I did see that question. I've jotted a note down for myself to follow up on that. I do not have a solid answer right now. I'm pretty sure we can create a bunch of them, but I understand that there's a lot there. So definitely I can follow up with you on that one, Chris.
And I did give the birthday shout out for Alex's GV serial number 0.5. He got the serial number label about 3 weeks after he got the transmitter. And he's currently running the new AUI on that one. He had to do the update from CF card to solid state drive, and now it's running the new AUI. So yeah, and because that answers William had asked all GVs, and the answer is yes. So all GVs, assuming they pass the compatibility test, which I think, as you said, we've only had one briquette yet.
And that was internal.
Right.
Yep. So just to review, we have mature code, it's solid code, it's running in thousands of systems is where it's headed right now. But what you need to know, and just remember too, that this has been a ground up rewrite. This is OS right through to every code that paints a pixel on your screen, and with a lot of improvements because of that refresh. But you want to know what's happening with the VX and the GV and GV2. So the good news, because we've exercised a lot of these platforms, we have the code. We were looking at a lot of extensive code optimization to get it into the VS. We know how to do complexity because we can do a GV. So that means an NV Lite. We have that all figured out. And you know, the NX low power, it uses the same kind of controller as a VS and NV Lite. So we have a lot of the pieces in play, but I want to show you where we are. So this is where we started. If you look on the right of the screen, this kind of harks back to the early part of my career where I was deeply involved in the computer industry, but the ARM processor in a VS is around 300 million instructions per second MIPS. Just for comparison, if you were to look at our GV, it's got 24,000 MIPS, so much power that it's hard for us to use it all up. But if you look at the architecture of Flash, it put the basic OS and logic and communications within the transmitter, and then all the drawing, the heavy duty drawing stuff is farmed out to your PC or whatever device was running Flash. So that's how that architecture worked. Now, if we move forward and look at when we move to the VX, we now move to a processor in the VX that was more than twice as powerful as the ARM that we had in the VS. We had a lot more horsepower to deal with. And so when we architected the new AUI, we architected it as more of a monolith type of approach where all the graphics processing was being served from the ARM that's in the processor. And obviously it runs beautifully in the VX. And our message last year when we went to NAB was the work we had to do was really just to spend more effort to refactor and compress and optimize that code so it would run into the VS. Well, that didn't go. We have cranked and tried. You know, the software team at Nautel is roughly around 10 people. It's more than some of our competitors have engineers. But eventually you get to a point where you got to say that's just not going to go. So that's where we ended up. So we have to pivot, and we have a good pivot that we're going to talk to you about in a moment. Jeff asked me to put in the for those of the Friends vintage, the pivot scene, which you see in the top minute. But once again, on a more serious nature, let's take a look at where we're going. And the approaches we're going to use a progressive web app approach. So all the code that we've written will be used. It'll be moved forward in this architecture, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that architecture looks like. But it kind of gets back to full circle to Flash that would farm out the graphics to the client or the host processor or the tablet or the phone, wherever you're running it. That's going to be what we do as we move into this progressive web app approach. So the graphics will be run on your device, and we know that there's plenty of space when we do that to make the comms and the logic and the OS run very efficiently within the VS or the NV Lite. So let's take a little bit more of a look at that. So what is a progressive web app? It's basically a web app that has, you know, web-like appearance. It runs in a web browser, and it's very flexible. And maybe the way to really give you a sense for what this is all about is, here's an example of companies that are running progressive web apps today. So a lot of us know Ubiquiti, their devices, but that's an example of their application running within a progressive web app type architecture. Starbucks, Pinterest, Forbes, these are all blue chip examples of people using this type of architecture today. I'm going to hand it over to Cameron. He's going to tell us a little bit more about progressive web app technology. Over to you, Cameron.
All right, thanks, John. Hi, everybody. So some of you may have heard of a progressive web app before, but for those who haven't, a progressive web app is not much different than a regular app. The big difference really is around where it gets the app from. So in the past, we've always loaded up a transmitter with all the pieces of software that you would require to monitor and control the transmitter, where a progressive web app can be obtained from a site other than the transmitter. So what this does is it opens up a number of things for us. It allows us to move functionality off of the transmitter, so processes that are taking up CPU time, and move that actually out to the browser, which can really handle that processing much more efficiently and in a much more performant manner. So this is our strategy to take all of the code we've written. We have all the code developed currently to work on a VS and an NV Lite. It's all there in place, all for all the high definition and everything else we want to do. The challenge is that when we take it and build it and put it on those transmitters, it just doesn't perform well. So moving some of this functionality off of the transmitter, and we can move quite a bit of it, out into the browser is going to offload that function happening on the transmitter, which is going to give us the ability to perform. In addition to that, it's going to give us better capabilities around security. So we will be able to move forward at some point with multi-factor authentication. We'll be able to open transmitters up so that you can access them via the internet without poking a hole in your firewall. Access from smartphones, tablets, whatever device. So a progressive web app can adapt to the size of screen that you currently have nicely. So we have lots of plans for things we could do in the future, but basically we want to take the functionality we have today first and get that working on the processors that are in VS and NV Lite and some NXs.
So quick couple of questions that come in here. So Alex is asking, so is this similar to WebAssembly? And this is Greek to me at this point.
No, it's no different than running an app like Facebook or a site you go to with your browser. But what happens is all of the code, rather than sitting on a server and the browser going out and refreshing over and over, it all lives on your desktop. So whether you're on the internet or not, you can still access your transmitter. You can't get updates. You'll have to actually, be available on the internet to get an update. But it's a little different. It's the same. It's HTML5. It's JavaScript. It's CSS. Yep.
And we're going into a little bit under the hood here, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be the AUI and it's going to work on your device.
Yeah.
And let's see, so Marco's mentioned VS, NV, NX. The old NV will also be included. Basically, I think the plan is everything that has an AUI now with Flash will have an AUI without one.
Yep.
And that's our goal.
Yep, that's the goal.
And Cole said, I'm of the if it ain't broke, don't fix it school. So will there ever come a time when we're forced to move to the new AUI? And I guess the short answer to that is if you're happy with the companion app, I mean, you've downloaded it and you're running an AUI, it's like Windows updates. Just because Windows stops supporting it doesn't mean there aren't a lot of computers out there still running XP. We don't have any control, but if it ever breaks, then at that point, you may not have a choice if you need support on it, because there will be a point where we're not able to support it. I mean, technology does move along that way. Let's see, sarcasm from Alex, we'll skip that one, but I did note it, Alex, just so you know. So time frame for the VS release, there's a question. We're going to put Cameron right on the spot because I can, or are we going to make John?
Yeah, we're going to cover that in just a moment, Jeff.
All right, look at that. So that's it for right now. I'll come back in a moment.
Sure.
Yep.
And I think you've spoken to some of this, Cameron, but go ahead.
Some of it. So just a couple more points here, I guess, about what our plans are. There are some functions that we'll have to continue to run on a transmitter. For example, audio, networking status, SNMP, of course, reporting the state of the transmitter, and time management. But we're going to move anything that is not required to be on a transmitter out to the browser. And this is just really refactoring the code to be in a different format. So taking some C++ code, refactoring it into JavaScript code. So all the heavy work and algorithm design and analysis and all that technical stuff has already been worked out, and it's just a matter of taking it and repackaging it for a browser format.
Yeah. And let's see, so Sean asked if there be a dedicated phone app or just accessed by a browser, but with this, you don't really need the app at all, do you? It is just browser based.
Well, so what happens with a phone, for example, you would open a browser, go to a website that we provide, app.nautel.com or something like that. And once the app initiates, you can click a button and it will store it on your homepage on your desktop on the phone. So it looks just like a native app. When you click on it, it opens like a native app, but it's really a web app running in a little container. So it'll feel very similar to opening up Gmail or any app you have on your phone.
Now, so here's a question not asked there. This is my question. What happens if I'm monitoring about 50 different transmitters? Just one app on the phone that I click the button for, and then do I have a drop list, or how do I pick?
That's exactly correct, Jeff. So you could access multiple transmitters with a single app. So you don't, and that opens up the door for all kinds of stuff, functionality in the future, yet to be determined, of course. But being able to monitor your whole network, for example, is one idea that we could do with this, and that getting the software off the transmitter and into a progressive web app opens the door for that type of capability.
And the ability to load updates without having to go off air.
Updates would happen in seconds.
Remote chance to soup up the old VS hardware? If so, would it be worth it? And I think the answer to that is it would be cost prohibitive.
Right.
Both on our end and on yours, because ultimately, if we pay the price, somebody else does too.
It would look like an Exciter replacement, which at that point, I probably encourage you to look at a VX.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, and the questions are coming in faster than I can answer them or ask them, and there's way more. So I will, at the end of this, absolutely keep a list of all the questions and go through and make sure everybody gets contacted. I'm just trying to hit the ones that catch my eye on the way by. Mike wants to know if the system runs on a watchdog. So, is there a way to restart it if it does brick or lock up, not brick?
Yep, currently there's a watchdog. Yep.
So we loaded up a few questions ourselves here, Jeff.
Cool.
So one of them was, will my transmitter need to be on the internet? There's a little no there. Cameron, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So no, we need to be, we're certainly aware that there are customers who don't have internet access either at their transmitter site or even maybe where their desktop is. So this progressive web app will be architected to work in environments where there's no internet access. There are some advantages to having internet access, not necessarily at the transmitter site, but wherever you're running your laptop, because you can get updates then easily. So updates would come via the web. Now we do have plans where if a transmitter doesn't have internet and you want to update it, we could do that maybe through USB or through the AUI itself. So internet does provide a more enhanced experience for sure, but you won't need it with this app in order to function.
The similar question is your device. Does your device need to be on?
Yes, same thing. No, it doesn't. So once you get the app from somewhere, either through downloading a file or on a USB, you can connect to your transmitter without having internet access on your desktop. The progressive web app has everything it needs to talk to your transmitter.
Josh asked a good question on security. Does it open a security concern if Nautel were to get hacked? Could this allow a bad actor to gain control of all transmitters utilizing the web app? And as I understand it, we're just providing the portal to download the web app. Once they've got it downloaded, it's totally independent of our servers. Is that correct?
That's correct. At that point, it is. Yep.
So at that point, the odds of somebody hacking your transmitter are no more than they are right now if you've got it connected to the internet. And somebody like me uses Shodan to tell you that there's currently 17 Nautel transmitters visible on the internet. So yeah, I mean, the risk is never zero if it's connected to a publicly accessible network connection, but this won't exacerbate it any more than what it would be right now.
Right. If you've got your transmitter behind a secure firewall, it should be safe. As safe as anybody could make a device behind a firewall in a network today. And I'm concerned about people who want to access their transmitter remotely off their network and doing port forwarding or poking a hole in the firewall. There's better ways to allow access, and a progressive web app would provide a platform for us going forward in a better, more secure environment.
Yeah. Now Mike asks, and I know Mike's running a GV series, but Mike's asking, will the current SNMP OIDs change with the new AUI? And the answer to that, I believe, is yes. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So the OIDs now, we do provide the MIB on our FTP site, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Look at me getting all acronym based here. Are there plans to make meters for the Orban inside card, Justin?
Yes, it's on the wish list as well. Definitely a high value feature that we are working towards.
I mentioned the station that I help out with, and that was one of our biggest gripes as well. So, yep.
Yep, we definitely realize the value that provides in seeing what your audio processor is doing.
Right. And Tom just wants to verify that the VS series will have the HTML5 AUI via the progressive web app. And
Absolutely.
primarily because that's the horsepower restriction we were talking about.
Yep.
All right, carry on.
Cool. How do I go back? There we go. So, the other question is, we're touching on some of this, but how can this approach benefit you as the broadcasters in the future? Obviously, this is what's going to enable us to give you a fast, responsive UI on the VS and NB Lite, but there's a lot of other opportunities here as well too.
Yeah, so moving functionality off the transmitter means having to update your transmitter less often. So any updates to functionality, bug fixes that we want to release, we would release them into the progressive web app. So every transmitter would run a small piece of code that the progressive web app would talk to, and would all look the same to the progressive web app. And through a handshaking discovery, the progressive web app would determine what type of transmitter it's talking to, and then go from there. So bug fixes without a transmitter load, that will be very much possible. And also, as I indicated, that it opens the door and gives us a platform for new functionality that you just can't do when you load all of the software on a transmitter device. So taking it out of the transmitter, creates opportunities for new features and functionality.
And that ties into something that John had asked. Will notifications be possible, like on a phone app? So if you had an alarm, could you have a little red circle on your phone pop up?
Absolutely, and that's one of the big features of progressive web apps is push notifications. Cool. So devices can send updates and information, status details, and so on to the device.
Yeah. And let's see. So Michael's just verifying has an NX50 with 4.7 VS1 5.3. Will I be able to upgrade the software to work with the new? And the short answer is yes. And I know John's talking to Time Frame in a moment, so I'll let him deal with that.
Sure.
One other really quick one, William asked, any chance for use of an intermediary box like Raspberry Pi running the AUI software and having it connected to the VS with SNMP? And I mean, there's no reason you couldn't get a Raspberry Pi, load Windows on it, put the AUI controller in it, and connect it via SNMP now with PRTG or whatever SNMP manager you choose. So you could almost roll your own of those if you chose. But for us to develop it would mean taking away from what we're doing now and slowing stuff down even further. So
we definitely have experience with large customers managing many transmitters, actually preferring to use SNMP as their main pipe to the transmitter and build out their own control interfaces when you're dealing with maybe hundreds of transmitters rather than single or double digits. So definitely SNMP is a powerful tool for that.
Oh, Alex is hitting with the hard questions. So Alex's background, for anybody who doesn't know him, is software and fancy stuff. And he wants to know if there's any support for any REST API instead of SNMP, or REST API. I should have pronounced the acronym instead of. So.
This is the first time I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
So
it's technically possible. Where it would fit on our roadmap, I'm not sure at the moment, but certainly something that wouldn't be limited.
And Jay's asking what SNMP monitoring tool do we recommend? I mean, I like Passler's PRTG because you can monitor up to 100 elements without going to the paid version. You can do that for free, but rolling your own interface is a much bigger challenge. There are a pile of other ones out there, so really, I mean, it really depends on your, what do they say, time versus money. You're either going to spend some money or you're going to spend some time. So whichever you prefer to do, that'll determine what you pick for an SNMP manager. Let's see, what about webhooks if we're going to do API? Now they're hitting me with the hard questions. This is why I get you guys. All right, John, I'm going to hand it over to you because we are pushing up near the top of the hour, and I know you got a few things left to go.
Sure. Well, and the big question is availability. So I think where we're headed is going to give us something that's even better than what we had planned to give you in the beginning. So I think we're going to end up something that's very good for the long-term use of AUI. And you got to know that this is what keeps us up at night. It's not a background task at all. This is a prime task for Nautel. You can start doing the math on what it costs to do 40 person years of effort on a project. So we're absolutely committed to this. There's close to 10,000 users in the base that we want to bring forward, and we are committed to do that. So where we are right now is we're scoping out this approach. We have a very disciplined, because of this whole AUI migration piece, we've become a very mature software team with excellent process. And as we scope out this functionality, we'll be able to have a better view of the trajectory and speed that we're going to be able to do this conversion. Once again, the good news is we have the code. We just have to refactor it into this new mode. Know though that we are a little bit intense on our testing. We test things. We know that you can't have things go wrong, so we test things absolutely rigorously. So where are we right now is scoping this out. We'll be able to give you a better sense of availability in a few months' time. So that's the best time to check in. If I was to give you that date now, I'd just be, wrong. There's been too many dates that have come and gone. So we want to give you something that we can feel a bit more confident about. So we'll ask you to stay tuned on that. But this is our effort going forward in 2025 is to move this project forward.
And I mean, it's early days with the progressive web app, but Keith's asking, can we review the features that will not be available in the latest release of the new AUI for the VS series specifically? And I think the goal is to ultimately have everything that you can do right now move over, unless there's anything that somebody's just said, we don't want that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good example to the next topic, Jeff, because as we move forward in with the VX AUI, one of the big questions we got was, where's the audio player? Where's streaming audio? And I think that's where we're going to let Justin speak a little bit about the latest updates that we're doing to the VX and to the code base generally. This is Nautel what we do. We continue to invest in the platforms that we build, and we provide the support over the lifetime of the product. So with that, Justin, I'm going to click the screen and let you take back over.
And
sounds
Justin,
great, John.
As the official clock watcher, you get 9 minutes till your interview.
Yes, nobody has looked through the window at me yet, so we're okay for the moment. So yes, I have been working on VX for probably 6.5 years yet now, so I tend to be known as the VX guy. So VX is, our big flagship small transmitter for powers from 150 to 6 kilowatts. So let's roll into the next slide. We've been continuously working on improvements to our software and working on, getting to a feature parity to what we had with the old Flash. We've released and we are shipping an integrated audio player as of software version 7.0. You will note that very, very quickly after we released that, there was a 7.01 minor bug with some time stuff. So we found that bug and fixed it in about the same 24-hour period. So we're getting a lot faster at rolling fixes, and we are continuously monitoring that. Some of the problems with email are improved as of that release, and then I think will be further improved as of the upcoming 7.1 release. And yeah, those email improvements are going to come to GV2 as well. But the big thing with our 7.0 was audio player. So that brings a kind of MP3 player functionality to the transmitter. So you can upload files through the transmitter's AUI. You can use either, as of that release, MP3 or WAV files for your audio. So it's a compromise between, really lossless quality or having maximum storage capacity. And, it's something that we're kind of targeting as a reliable, everything has gone down, I need something on the air backup source. So definitely encourage its use for that. And you can lay out and kind of set up all of your playlists and manage your files remotely. And one of the key aspects there is that we're not leveraging any USB storage at the moment. We're actually using the integrated SD card as part of the transmitter for the storage. That's something we're looking at USB into the future, but right now we're actually just kind of keeping those local to the transmitter to ensure reliability. Let's roll on next slide. So where are we taking the audio player from here? Many of you will know that we have supported on Flash streaming before. So we are looking to bring that to our VX series with kind of a streaming release for our software version 7.1. So that's going to be your Shoutcast, your Icecast, or your HLS. Those are all HTTP-based streaming methods. So those are going to be what we support with this first version. We're looking at, supporting MP3 and WAV for sure. FLAC support will also come for streams and files as well. So you'll be able to use FLACs as uploaded file types for the file player. And then we're also kind of continuously looking at other codecs that we can continue to add on. I definitely heard AAC a lot. We're working through some stuff there, and we're continuously looking for feedback from you all on what can be implemented. I'm seeing plans for HLS. So HLS is something we're planning for this initial release. So we should be able to support those as of 7.1. And then price, as far as I know, John, correct me if I'm not, but this is free software upgrades. We are rolling this as part of our regular VX software. So this is an improvement that you're going to get for no extra charge to your transmitter.
Yeah, that's right, Justin. So the basic core of Shoutcast, Icecast, HLS, that'll be just complimentary. So the price is $0.
Yeah, and then we're still looking at other things. I think someone mentioned Livewire Plus in some of the stuff, so we're looking at that in the future. That might be a different paradigm to this kind of package to include stuff, but we're definitely have it on the roadmap. And particularly with VX and our kind of transmitters leveraging this audio player, Orban inside is something that pairs really well to this audio player, as it gives you that processing on the transmitter. So that integrated processor is something that we definitely recommend pairing with this audio player, both in file playback and in streaming capacity, to give you that local audio processing. And then I don't have a view of the next slide. Okay, that goes starts over. So now sounds like demo time.
Let me give you control again. And you are driving the bus.
Okay, and give you guys another AUI. So can we see that okay?
Yep.
Excellent. So I've got a VX set up in our engineering lab here. I've got it set up to a couple different sources of audio. Right now I'm pointed to an IceCast stream. You can see that we're modulating here now. I do have my OR-band inside enabled and set to preset, so you'll see it's pretty kind of level modulation with that loudness kind of AGC. So you'll see in kind of these newer software releases a part of our audio inputs widget. We've now got audio player as an option down there, so we can see the audio level coming out of the player. And you'll see if you go up into this menu here, an audio player option. So as of today software, you'll see this playlist screen where you can set up your playlists and configure those. And you can also, as of 7.0, upload all of your audio files and all of that for your playlists. But what's going to be new in 7.1 is going to be this streams page. So you can see we're kind of opening up the option to kind of create your list of streams that you want to use to point your transmitter towards either locally hosted content, that could be another computer on the same LAN that's streaming to the transmitter, or that could be an internet stream for your normal station content. And the reason that I like this streaming audio so much over the file playback is that this gives you really integration of all of your regular program content from your web stream right to the transmitter. So you don't have to worry too much, as much about integration of things like advertisements and callouts and all of that stuff. So the process for adding a stream is really straightforward. You click the plus button, you call it a name, and you give it a URL. Let's say I'm pointing it to a local stream at 10 colon 8000 / stream. This is not a valid URL, but not a valid stream, sorry, it is a valid URL. So you can see that stream is now populated in my list. I can go and I can edit the stream, and really, from a streaming perspective, there's only a few parameters. Our streaming software on the back end will recognize what format is coming in, the sample rate, all of that stuff gets handled basically as part of the metadata from the stream, just like it would if you were to go load it with a VLC media player or to load a stream in your browser. But one thing that we do allow to configure on the transmitter side is a network buffer value. So the application there is if you have any reliability issues with your network on site and you do decide to use streaming as either a considerable backup or even your main program source, you can adjust that network buffer to store more samples on the transmitter so that if you have a brief, fraction of a second outage, we're able to ride through that. The downside of that is that's going to add latency to your content to air. So that's something that you do just kind of want to keep in mind, but that's there and configurable. You can adjust it up and down as you want.
So something else to throw on your wish list, because I don't think we can right now, but Alex has already asked, extracting the stream metadata to feed the RDS encoder.
That has come up in conversations already. That's something that we would really like to do. Not sure there yet, because that would be new development for us, but we're definitely looking at that as a good ask and something that would be very valuable.
William's asking about streaming capability in the works for the VS2.5. With the VS2.5 existing software, you can already do streaming with IceCast and Shoutcast. It does not support the other options that you were talking about.
Yeah, HLS would be the key difference there, because I'm not sure HLS was really as popular when VS was released initially.
Right. Well, and that's like I said earlier, a lot of this stuff just didn't exist when we started these AUI platforms. So I'm going to take or you got more to go, Justin? Because I know you're at the top of the hour.
For the most part, I mean, the only other piece is that it just kind of works. You can go into your preset and you can configure your, whatever stream source you want it to be as either your main or your backup audio, depending on what your plan is and your architecture. See all of the options that I have listed there for streams and playlists. And then, likewise, you can have the same failover functionality that we have for our audio inputs, you can apply in the preset for your streams. So you can use our mod loss functionality to go to a second preset that has another stream URL. Say you're hosting your stream from two different locations and one of them goes down, you can have that backup ready to roll.
Now, if you're switching audio sources, Alex has got a point. Does it still hiccup your RF?
No, it shouldn't. As far as I know, I can roll from a shoutcast stream to an icecast stream to my playlist, and it should just, be pretty rock solid on the RF side of things. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, I know you've got to go and you're a couple of minutes late, so I am going to take control again and we'll throw the slide deck back up. And John, I think we're near the end, so I'm not going to give you control of the keyboard. You're going to have to tell me when to go to the next slide. One of the other ones that did get asked on the feature set, there was a lot of, we had the phone home early on in the legacy app. Are there plans to put something similar to that in the new app? Or is that a future add or just not sure yet?
Oh, the phone home capability?
Yeah.
That's certainly something we always keep in the back of our mind, but it's certainly not our priority today.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to let you continue on.
Well, I think we're pretty much closed out here, except for maybe some more questions. But
timeline was the biggest one that other than you said you couldn't really talk to it. But let's see, what's our progression? I guess VS is next, right? Currently, Cameron's project.
It's VS and NV Lite are the priorities. So
okay,
we'll work through to see which one comes out the door first. That'll be all part of the scoping exercise.
And then NX would follow that with the original NV prior or after.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So you notice how his voice got a little quieter when I start to nail him down like this. Let's see. Tom's asking, will the VS series be able to pick up IceCast streams as a program source via the progressive web app? So Cameron, that'd be a you question.
Yeah, so the one of the capabilities that would need to remain on the transmitter is the audio capability. So yeah, the intent would be that the same solution that we implemented on VX would apply to VS. So we strategically chose some tools that would work across all platforms. So yeah, that's the intention, to make that capability available on the VS.
All right. Two other questions that have come in, one earlier and one just recently, that are kind of tied together. Somebody had asked about backing up settings, and we've been asked this before, where if you've got to do an upgrade, can you back up your settings, do your upgrade, and then slam your settings back in from whatever format you happen to use? Have we looked at that?
We do have it on our roadmap. We had a couple of a customer just recently bring this up, and what we do is every 2 weeks we triage our roadmap and look at what tickets we think are going to bring the most value. So it's hard to say when that would bubble up, but this is clearly something that people are asking for. And the initial priority is to get all of the code that we wrote over the last 8 years working on the other platforms first, and then look at the new feature list and see what the values are there.
All right. And Aaron had asked something a little more generic. It's just asking, so if you go from the old AUI, the flash base, to the new HTML AUI, and specifically, I think he's talking to GV, but in general, do any of your presets or settings move with it, or do you have to rebuild it all? You pretty much done going old to new. It's an OS replacement. You'd have to rebuild from scratch, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So Aaron, on that one, go into user settings. I think might be system settings, and one of the two, you'll be able to do a clipboard, a copy of all of your settings, so at least you've got something written down. By the way, on the new AUI, like I said, user settings, system settings, there's two choices, and I have 100% chance of getting them wrong. On the new AUI, it's just settings. So I'm right 100% of the time for the first time ever. Yeah, Clayton, we like capturing meters right from the AUI. Is there a chance to get meters emailed out on a schedule? And I know that's on the wish list as well. just being able to log on a schedule. So,
You know, Jeff, these are great examples. Some of these
oh, look, I ain't
capabilities
going to cut and
talking
paste
about.
this entire question list and then send it right straight to the JIRA case. For the folks that don't know, JIRA is our engineering database, and we've got a big old bucket of ideas that you folks have given us.
What I was going to propose, Jeff, is some of these ideas that you're mentioning are things that we can do in the progressive web app without updating the transmitter.
Yep.
This is just how information gets formatted and communicated. So that starts to show the power of the approach.
So I see you've got the question slide in there twice. Like I say, I've tried to hit the high points on the questions. They were coming in at one point faster than I could read, which may or may not be a comment on me more than anything else. But certainly I'll make it a point to go through the entire list. I have to warn you, we got this little trade show coming up next week. I won't promise that you'll get your answers before then. So, you know, give me till mid-April and then send me an email and say, hey, fool, where's the answer to my question? But if I did miss anything, I will make it a point to email you. So on that note, Cameron, I want to thank you very much. In absentia, I want to thank Justin and John. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
If there's nothing else, we will give you all, I guess we only ran 8 minutes over, which is relatively speaking not bad for us. Hope to see some of you at NAB, and otherwise we'll catch you on the road. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.